This is the Surge, a 1 to 10 power first focal plane LPVO from a new optics company, AcuVista. And I'm going to be testing this LPVO, and if you stick around till the end of the video, you could find out how you can win it for free. So, hit that like and subscribe button, and let's get started. I won't do a boring unboxing video. Instead, let's just take a look at the contents of the box. This is the AcuVista Surge. It is a 1 to 10 power first focal plane LPVO that has a 24mm objective and a 30mm tube. And I've not heard of AcuVista as a brand until they reached out to me to test this. But yeah, overall, this looks like a nicely constructed LPVO. It's got some nice features and milling. Looks like it's pretty well put together, surprisingly. For a budget LPVO, it looks pretty nice. It has an illuminated reticle. It's powered by a 2032 coin battery. And there are 11 levels of brightness with an off in between the 1 and the 11. And it indexes nicely. And our turrets are exposed. They are locking, so you pull up to unlock. And the elevation is nice and loud and tactile positive, with no slop in between each of the clicks. They are user resettable. You just unscrew that center screw, and each of the clicks is a half MOA. Now let's take a look at our windage. Well, also nicely loud, tactile positive, with a little bit of slop, quite a bit of slop actually on this one, between the clicks. They are user resettable again, and push down to lock. Actually not. This one has slop when locked down too. Okay, so that's a little disappointing. And our magnification ring turns smoothly. Comes with a screw-in throw lever. And our diopter turns smoothly with a little indicator dot, so that's nice. So apart from that one loose turret here, not bad. It also comes with a set of budget mounts and shims, oddly enough. I don't know what the shims are for. These are cheap plastic shims, because this is a 30mm mount and this is a 30mm tube. And speaking of cheap, look at that. Not aligned, the top and bottom ring of that are, and there's a little nicks here. So these are pretty garbage mounts, though they should be fine mounting it onto a 223 rifle or a rimfire rifle, which we'll be testing it on. So yeah, we're going to be using this for the testing, but I probably will not keep these mounts. Probably replace them with Monstrum or Discovery mounts, which are much better QC on these. So anyway, we'll get this mounted up, tested next. We're looking through the AcuVista Surge 1 to 10. I have it set at its lowest power of 1. And what we're looking for is any distortions or size shifting that can occur with lower quality optics that show that it's not quite 1 power, or there's kind of a distortion. But if we look at the telephone pole there at the very right edge of our scope image, it's pretty straight. So that looks like it's pretty flat. And even when I bring objects in and out of the scope view, there's not a huge size shift. So yeah, this 1 power looks pretty close to 1 power. Now, I'm going to lock this off and aim at the top of the hill there. That is Mount Davidson, which is approximately 1,500 yards away. And I'm going to bring the scope up to halfway in its scope range. Let's bring this up to 5 power and take a look now. And you can see how that reticle changes. The first focal plane reticle, that quick reference horseshoe, half 3/4 ring has now expanded. And you can see the center ranging stadia more clearly. And I'm looking for any distortions or chromatic aberration. I see a little bit of that in the tree line, high contrast areas, but it still looks pretty good from the center to the outer edge. And still maybe a little bit warmer than in real life, but still quite color accurate. Now, I'm going to bring this all the way up to its maximum magnification. Usually we'll lose a lot of light, but it's actually not bad. It's still quite visible. A little bit of softening around the outer edges and a little bit more chromatic aberration visible. And you can see that ranging reticle a lot more clearly now. And you can also see the trail marker sign at the top of the hill there. That's a 3-foot-ish steel sign on top of a pole, which is a good proxy for an IPSC target at this distance. Now let's bring up the illumination. I've set this at 11, and you can see that Horseshoe of Death center is quite visible here. This is an overcast day here, but it is visible in daylight, and if I bring it up into the sky, it's still looking a little red. I'm going to turn this over, directing it towards the sun in the clouds here, and it's still quite visible. So, yeah, I'm going to call this daylight bright, maybe not red dot bright, certainly, but it is daylight bright in terms of illumination. And if we bring this up into the sky here, and I'll bring this up again, and you can see some of the eye box peeking in there as I change the magnification, but I just want to give you a good view of that ranging reticle. We are looking through the Surge at its lowest power of 1 at our reference target board downrange at 100 yards to get our best overall view through the glass. And let me bring up our magnification all the way to its maximum of 10 power and take a look at our target board now. And this is a good opportunity to check our range of adjustments. Let's start with our elevation, and let me just unlock these turrets, and let's start with our elevation, and that is the very topmost. At least I think that was, yep. And let's bring this all the way to its bottom. There we go. So that is the bottommost on this turret. Now let's dial this back to its original 0 on that turret. Now let's check out our windage. And that is the very rightmost extent. And that's the very leftmost extent. And interestingly, I didn't see any darkening around the edges, which would be our eye box. So this is a fairly tight eye box on this particular scope, as I noticed. Let's dial that back to 0. Since we are lined up at the bottom left highlight on that grid target, let's just see how well these turrets track with a box test. Do a full rotation on our elevation, full rotation on our windage, and now let's dial back our elevation back, a full rotation, and our windage, a full rotation. Alright, before we do our nipple twister test, let me just lock down this turret and see if that little wiggle actually affects the reticle. And nope, it does not. Even though that is wiggling when it's locked down, it's not shifting the reticle at all. So that is locked in. Alright, let's do the nipple twister test. And this is a test coined by my buddy Cyclops Joe. We're just going to turn the heck out of these turrets for a good 20-30 seconds and see if the reticle will come back to its original 0 point when we have that turrets dialed into 0. Alright, let's start with our windage and get that to 0 on the turret. And now let's check our elevation and bring that back to 0. Alright, since we passed the nipple twister test, let's move the scope up to 50 yards and take a look at our reference target board in a little more detail. Alright, we're now at 50 yards and we have the scope set at 10 power. And I gotta say, this is remarkably color balanced, color accurate, and surprisingly sharp for a fixed power LPVO. Now, this is a very tight eye box, even at 1 power, and very unforgiving at 10 power. But if you've got this all dialed in and adjusted for your diopter and very well supported, this is a remarkably, surprisingly sharp. Now I can see all the grid lines on our grid target on the top right, and on the color card on the top left, that's pretty well color balanced. And on the paper target in the bottom left, you can see the hits on the reactive sticker target in the center, as well as 2 22 caliber holes below that reactive sticker target. And in the resolution chart on the bottom right, I can make out both horizontal and vertical lines all the way down to element 3 or 4 in group -1, which for a 10 power LPVO is surprisingly good. So, just as a reminder, don't forget to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button and notification bell button, which is absolutely free. And I appreciate you doing that before this video ends. But as an extra incentive, well, AcuVista is giving away one of these Surge LPVOs to one of my subscribers in a free contest on my website. And if you're a subscriber, well, you're qualified to enter that contest. And if you hit that notification bell button, well, you'll be notified when that contest begins later this spring. It's not this month. This month, in fact, I'm giving away 2 prizes from 2 different companies. One of them is another scope and also a flashlight. So if you're a subscriber, well, you're qualified to enter that contest. So good luck on that. And I'd also like to thank AcuVista for sending out the Surge. Now, I've never heard of the AcuVista brand before they contacted me, so this is absolutely new to me. But in terms of the scope itself, well, let me address the 500-pound gorilla in the room, and that has to do with this wiggling locking turret. This is the first time I've actually experienced a turret that locked and had this much play in it. I don't know, have you? Let me know in the comments if you've ever had a similar experience. Now, I contacted AcuVista, and to their credit, they responded to me within a business day, and they do have a lifetime warranty on their products, by the way. So they contacted me after I told them about the issue, and I sent them a little video snippet of what I was experiencing, and they sent me a brand new one. They didn't ask for this one back. They just sent me a brand new one. Thing is, the new one also had a wiggling windage turret, so it seems to be kind of normal for this particular product and brand. I don't know. This is the first time I'm testing out an AcuVista scope. If you have one, please let me know your experiences with them. That said, it didn't seem to have any negative effect on the function of this particular scope. When I was at the range, when I was wiggling the turret, it didn't shift the reticle in any way, and in my live fire test, the unit held 0. So yeah, it has no negative effect on the performance of the scope. And in terms of performance, I gotta say this is one of the sharpest 1 to 10 power scopes that I've tested. Now, it does have a fairly tight eye box, but that is the case with just about every 1 to 10 power LPVO I've ever tested. Tend to have very tight eye boxes, even at 1 power, and especially unforgiving at 10 power. And this is a good example of that. That said, at 10 power, this was remarkably bright and sharp. It surprised me how good this was at 10 power, almost as good as a Vortex Razor 1 to 10. But yeah, that scope costs like 3 times as much as this one. This is not cheap, by the way. At least I don't think it's cheap. It's got a street price of about $450. So I think in terms of the glass clarity, I think it's a fair price. But again, let me know what you think about that. But if you are interested in getting one of these, you can find more information about them in my full written review at moondogindustries.com. You can find a link to that article in this video's description. But of course, there's no better deal than free. So yeah, definitely enter the contest, become a subscriber. And again, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Good luck on the contest. God bless. Moondog out. Hey, I'd like to know what you thought of this video. Leave me a comment or chat with me on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, MeWe, Instagram, or Locals. And if you want to see all of my videos, go to moondogindustries.com.